This is the Gambling Gauchos.
I'm telling y'all right now, the country's gonna find out. Everything runs through Lubbock. Everything runs through Lubbock. Somebody turn on some damn music.
You're listening to the Gambling Gauchos. Talking Texas Tech, betting on the Big 12 and beyond. We've got everything you need, money lines, memes, and matadors.
Well, you want to quit, Ethan? That'll be the day.
Now, here's Kyle Jacobson and Rob Bro, the Moneyline Matadors, the Casino Cowboys, the Parlay Picadors.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig. Win.
The Gambling Gauchos. Oh, and one more thing. It's all West Texas. It always has been.
Welcome into the Gambling Gauchos. Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Kyle Jacobson. A fine Sunday evening heading into the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Over under on laptops, iPads, whatever it is, Surfaces broken 1.5. You got a public reprimand. Did you see that from the NFL and from Microsoft?
No.
The whole NFL got a memo. You wanna
Don't
loosen
destroy the tablets.
a joint right there you can loosen and then move.
It's fine.
All right. Or you can just spin the mic. Did you get it? Yeah, so they
Yeah, it's
sent a
fine.
memo.
I said it's fine.
They sent a memo out. Oh man. Texas Tech got beat by Kansas State. Let's just get right into it.
They said Kirk Cousins couldn't win in prime time.
It hit it's 9 a.m. prime time?
It was, 6 o'clock in London or something? 6 p.m.? That counts. It was the only game on. It's prime time.
Okay. I did not watch that this morning.
Yeah, let's talk about Tech KState.
Okay. I'm gonna give you the broad strokes because I think there's a lot of particular things that we could say about the game, but broad strokes, I am really excited about this program, but I'm not very high on this team. Do I need to clarify that, or does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, I think that this team can go to a bowl game. I think this team is going to play worse teams after the bye. But I think that the microphone doesn't seem fine, man. Do you want to fix it?
No,
Do you want me to show you how to?
It's fine.
If you just grab the mic like this, you can spin it, and you just spin it up.
Boom.
Does that work better?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, all right. If you're not like watching us somewhere,
This is great podcasting.
Well, we could have done that before, but you didn't even touch the mic until we started, and then now it's awkward. But it's not.
We're on to Cincinnati.
All right. On to Stillwater. So Kansas State, I think, is a really, really good team and a bad matchup for Texas Tech. I think NC State was a bad matchup for Texas Tech. Texas, honestly, was a bad matchup for Texas Tech, but Texas Tech beat them. Not in a really sustainable way. And then Oklahoma State's a bad matchup for Texas Tech, so I don't think you're going to look good. But you're going to be 3-3 at the bye, and there's going to be worse teams after the bye. So I'm not like super high on 8-4 or a real strong finish or anything with this team, how it's set up. But how they responded against Kansas State and how they played in that second quarter to potentially take the lead coming out of the second half and how they fought in the third quarter, this defense 95% of the time has been really, really good. Now, 5% of the time they've either blown calls or blown coverages and giving up touchdowns and whatever else, but 95% of the time this defense has been really good. So program trajectory, all in. Team trajectory, I think you're going to lose this weekend and struggle to be in a bowl just with this current roster.
What was the spread on Saturday?
Yeah, 8.5. And you lost by 9.
Okay. And we're supposed to take away some...
No, I
know not you,
Right.
but fans
Oh,
on
for sure.
Twitter freaking out about literally the most likely outcome coming to fruition is weird to me.
After a 13-0 hole that you gifted K-State.
Right. And, frankly,
it should have been 21-0.
a bunch of big plays. Like, yeah, you're going to give up something to Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn. A pair of 69-yard runs. It was probably close to that, 65-yard run on the opening play of the game. Those are just... It's one thing to miss an assignment, give up 15 yards, they gash you. It's one thing to give up 3 plays nearly the length of the football field. That was ultimately... Like, they didn't actually sustain a ton of drives against you. You made them punt a lot.
The one drive that ended in a field goal, maybe?
I was thinking back to this. I would rather lose like you did on Saturday. I think you have more to build off of than the 2014 game versus Arkansas, where they didn't have an 80-yard touchdown run.
Yeah,
They just got 10 on every single play, and you had no hope. But you actually, for a large share of the snaps defensively, you did a good job stuffing the run against a great run team.
Is Kansas State the second best team you're going to play this year? Third best? Top 4?
Definitely top 4.
And would you say that NC State is in the top 4?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it right now,
We have our power rankings.
in any kind of order, at NC State, at TCU, at Kansas State, at Stillwater, it's probably your 4 toughest games. No, those might not wind up being the 4 best teams, but I think Texas is still a good team, and you got the fortune of getting them at home.
Right.
OU, I don't know if they're going to rebound or not. They might suck. I don't know. But you play them at home. Baylor looks solid, but you get them at home. So, yeah, in that respect, going into the bye, I think you're going to have probably your 3 hardest games out of the way, unless TCU can really sustain this and keep beating people by multiple touchdowns.
Well, but even if they do, I would rather go against a team like TCU than a team like Kansas State or an atmosphere like NC State. Because those two atmospheres are tougher on the road than what TCU's atmosphere is going to be. TCU very good. And I would like to see Max Duggan, 5 weeks from now as opposed to what he's been the last 2 weeks. Because history tells us that's not Max Duggan.
Yeah.
Though maybe, and this is no direct shot at my favorite offensive coordinator, but maybe his offensive coordinators just weren't good at TCU under Gary Patterson, who was obviously throttling them. And Max Duggan was never allowed to be, if this is his true form, good Max Duggan. Has Garrett Riley unlocked something?
Also, to the fans that are, what I call chicken littles, and look, this is every game. Even if we had a 3-8 team going into the OU game and you lost, fans would be mad that you lost as 20-point underdogs or something. This is why I love paying attention to the odds, and I've said this before on the podcast. Coming into the season, your win total was 5.5. So the 2 most likely outcomes are 5 wins or 6 wins. So it's really only notable to me if you have only 4 wins or 7+ wins. And so I look at your 2 losses, road games against ranked teams, where you lost by within a field goal of the closing line.
Right.
I don't take away some extreme takeaway on now we can conclude X, Y, Z. No, you basically got exactly what the smart people thought was going to happen.
I do think, though, that you can take some things away from these couple of games that if you continue playing how you're playing, you're not going to win a lot of games. And if the turnovers continue, if the offensive line doesn't improve, which is it talent, is it scheme? If there's not maybe a tightening of the defense to where you don't give up those big plays, then you can lose to Kansas, who's has a proclivity to have big plays, even though they just scored 14 against Iowa State. Certainly can lose to TCU, And I think those two I had as wins before the season. But to your point, if we looked at our records, our schedules that we picked before the season, both of us heading 3-3 into the bye. So if you win this weekend, you're ahead of schedule for what we both thought this team could be.
A lot of people would argue you're ahead of schedule already, that you weren't supposed to beat Texas.
Right.
A lot of people looked at the schedule and thought 1-5 going into the bye week.
We were talking to a very smart football guy today who thought Houston and NC State and Texas and Kansas State and Oklahoma State would all beat you.
I can pull the receipts. People had Mike Farrell had a top 5 list of teams that you should be scared shitless to play.
Yeah.
Houston was on it.
Yeah.
I think it was Fox College Football had Houston as the group of 5 representative in the New Year's Six.
Yes.
All these people talking, they won 12 games, dangerous team. I never bought into it, but
They beat Auburn in the bowl game, and
they were the most
freaking out.
They were the most winnable game of that stretch besides Murray State. So 1-5 was not at all far fetched to start the season. The fact that you're 3-2 and that you feel like you had a winnable game in Manhattan.
Well, and
we don't know what's going to happen in Stillwater. I know everybody's just chalking that up as an L.
Right.
We did that in 2018 as well, and you beat them by 24 or something. So you're 3-3 at worst going into the bye. Then you get healthier. You get the easier part of your schedule. You have 4 more home games.
And that's another big part. You get to play at 4 home games.
I'm just not down in the dumps like some people are. When you lose by 9 as an 8-point dog, that's perfectly reasonable to me.
I came out encouraged on the program because, I mean, at 13-0, just getting boat raced in the first quarter, a lot of teams just lay down there. But to show the fight and to bounce back, and your defense looked really good. Again, except for about 5 plays.
Well, I just looked at the stats. 343 rushing yards for Kansas State.
Yeah.
10 per carry.
Right.
On its face, that's really bad. You cannot win games like that. But they had 3 carries, 69 and 69 each, Deuce Vaughn and Adrian Martinez. And then whatever he got on the first play of the game, I think it was 59 or 60. So they had, let me do some quick math, 200 out of 343 yards on 3 carries.
Yeah, and how many carries do they have total?
Let's see here. 39 rushing attempts.
So that's 36 carries and 140 yards.
You can win doing that.
Absolutely.
That's where...
And Deuce Vaughn was a non-factor until, I think, one drive, or the third quarter, I guess he had 2 big runs. But you bottled him up for a long time.
His first 10 carries, he was averaging 2.9 per carry. And he's one of the best running backs in the country. So you on those 75-yard runs, 69-yard runs, you have to find a way to... Like, look, they blocked it well. They gassed you, but you have to find a way to make that a 15 or 20-yard gain.
Yeah.
Instead of 69-yard gain.
Well, you might, think, hey, this is coming. They've done it a bunch.
Yeah. That's something I want to talk about, too, is slow starts. Not just getting down 13-0, but, like, literal first, second plays of the game.
That's back-to-back.
Texas scored in 3 plays. Kansas State scored in 2. I don't know what's going on out of the gates if opposing offensive coordinators are seeing how we line up early in the game and just exposing it, or if it's a fluke. But I really don't want to start every game down 7-0 with 14 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah. That's not sustainable. And on the road, it hasn't been. At home, you've won twice with, character program building wins, getting some overtime success, but overtime wins aren't sustainable either. And that's a really thin margin you're working with already. But this off the stream, I feel like the players are going to remember that giant goose egg they gave up last year to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is coming off a high of a win against Baylor. Tech has a shot at an upset. I won't write them off until the L happens. I think there's something to that. And I talked about going into the Baylor-Oklahoma State game that Baylor had a bit of a... They had the chip going into that game. Baylor didn't. Baylor won the Big 12 last year, beating Oklahoma State. They both beat each other last year, but Baylor beat them last. And so I do think that was important. And if you're just looking at bulletin board material, go back to the Texas game. Who had that bulletin board material? Texas Tech did, because they got hang 70 on last year, And the defense, after giving up a couple touchdowns early, was really good for the rest of the game. And this week, who has the bulletin board material? I think Texas Tech more prime for a backup. You might see hard to call this, but you might see a big Donovan game coming off of that one because they did get shut out last year. And maybe Donovan has a little dog in him still, which we think. By the way, dog is not talent. Dog is heart. Just to clarify. People were like, oh, he's not a dog. He's doing that and that. No, he's a dog because he responds to adversity, and he has his entire career, and he will continue to do so.
A lot of people have no idea what they're talking about when they...
Yeah.
Somebody said that Spencer Sanders is a running quarterback, like Adrian Martinez today. Okay. It's like, no, he can scramble.
Yeah.
But Adrian Martinez is like a little running back who is asked to throw every now and then.
Yeah.
Spencer Sanders is not that. I want to talk about two more things from the offensive side of the ball. I think we covered defense fairly well.
I want you to talk about those things, but we are in the Cardinal Sports Center studio. And we're both wearing our hats from Cardinals. If you want to get a Cardinals hat or a Gambling Gauchos hat, you can go to Cardinals Sports Center in Lubbock or online, mycardinalsports.com. Go ahead, Kyle.
So we're going to have to talk about the quarterback play and the quarterback position. But before we get there, because I imagine that'll be a pretty in-depth conversation, I want to talk about the strategy of running the football. I was losing my mind in the first half. Like, hey, can we at least try a handoff? I know. The O-line is not getting a good push. You're not going to gash anybody running the football. But what you were doing up to that point was 3 and out. I was like, let's try something. Because I think your two best offensive players are Taj Brooks and SaRodorick Thompson. Now, you started doing it. That's how you got back in the game when it was 13-0. SaRodorick broke 2 incredible runs that set up a touchdown.
Yeah, doing jump cuts in the backfield because there's defensive linemen in his face.
All by himself.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the Texas game, you ran the ball basically just well enough. It wasn't sexy at all, but it kept you in front of the sticks. You kept the ball moving, made them respect the run, and I think it worked out for you. SaRodorick Thompson, this blows my mind, had 6 carries. He was hurt with 13 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Really?
Through the first 47 minutes, 6 carries, as well as he was toting the rock. How is that possible?
What was his yards per carry?
9.2.
If you would have told me he had 6 carries, I would have said I would have taken the over. I mean, it felt like 12. How good he was doing.
Taj had 10 carries for 39. Not sexy, but you got a couple first downs on it. You got yourself into 2nd and 6. Here's what I'm not understanding. Donovan Smith, who we think has potential, he makes some good throws, he makes some bad decisions. 48 pass attempts, and I get that you were playing from behind, but also not really. A huge section of the game, it was 13-7 out to, 27-20. You weren't down by more than a touchdown for...
No, and they didn't stretch it till late when you went for it on 4th down in your own territory.
Right, so you could have had a balance. You put the ball in his hands 48 times through the air, some of that by necessity, some of it not. 18 carries for Donovan. Now, some of those are sacks, some of those are scrambles. Why is Donovan toting the rock 18 times and your two best players on offense combined 16 times? Especially when they have the ball. So let's combine SaRodorick and Taj's numbers. 16 carries for 94 yards. That's what, 5 yards a pop?
How many sacks were there?
Let me see.
Do you see that there?
Yeah, I can pull it up real quick.
I think there were 6 maybe.
So sacks, yeah, they had 2 players with 3 sacks, 6 total.
And on that stat sheet is a sack a carry because they count the negative yards.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 12 carries plus maybe a scramble or 2, but still.
So on 4th and 1, you run a slow developing quarterback counter and you get caught from the backside. Can we not go under center and fall forward for a yard? Can we hand it off to Taj Brooks, who weighs 225? I just don't get it. You got a player who's struggling, lack of experience, clearly has issues processing a defense, and between his pass attempts and carries, he gets the ball 66 times. Taj and SaRodorick carry it 16. So, again, I know that you're not going to go into Stillwater, hand the ball off 45 times and just, run it for 7.5 yards per carry. But you have to try.
Right.
You have to do it just as an exercise to make the defense guess at what you're doing. And Joey said in the post game, he said this offense, the biggest issue with this offense is when it's second and more than 10. And I think he said we did that 16 times against North Carolina State. Versus Texas, I don't have the numbers on that, but it seemed a lot more rare, and you had a lot more drives finish with points scored or down in the red zone. You got stuffed on fourth down and goal. So what's the harm in just handing it to SaRodorick and Taj? And even if it's not a good play, just taking your 2nd and 7 and moving on. Because you didn't do that hardly at all on Saturday. And I think that's why you were 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out over and over. And receivers aren't getting open. Donovan's getting sacked. Well, I mean, let's try something a little bit different. Because these negative plays are killing drives.
Yeah, you talk about the Western Kentucky numbers for Zach Kittley quite a bit, and how he brought, Western Kentucky up 130 points or something?
113 spots in total offense year over year.
I was thinking about that today. That was year 1 at Western Kentucky, but I would say that was year 3 with Zappy and those receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So I would kind of say that it was year 3 for that offense. I think it's going to take Zach Kittley some time to figure out what it's like to run complementary football, because he is learning what Joey wants, and that's to run the ball. He's not been good at it yet. I think the game plan for Texas was almost perfect, executed very well. I think Murray State obviously was executed well, but I don't know that the game plan needed to be perfect for that. Otherwise, I wasn't incredibly upset with how things went down at Kansas State. There were a few times where I was baffled, but...
Well, I'm going to take you back to one sequence in particular.
Looking back at the numbers, I do agree with you.
It's 20-17, so you've clawed your way back into the game at this point.
Yeah.
Hang on, is that right? I think it's 20-17. Either way, I think you were down by 3. It's 2nd and 3 in the red zone. You've moved the sticks multiple times to get it there.
Yes.
The 2nd and 3 play call is a fade route, basically at Henry Teeter in the end zone.
Uh-huh.
Now, maybe he could have caught it. I don't think it was like a bad play execution.
I love the shot there. I don't think I love
just run the ball. I don't get it. And now you're in 3rd and 3. Nobody's open. You throw it away and you settle for a field goal. There was no reason to put the ball in the air on 2nd and 3, in my opinion.
So
you settle for a field goal, and I think that was to tie the game when you could have taken the lead, and then Kansas State responds, you come back, you miss another field goal that would have given you a 3-point lead. And so you got 3 points in 2 red zone trips where you should have had at least 7 had you just kept moving the sticks.
Yeah, I like the 2nd and 3 call. I didn't like it to Teeter.
Why do you like the 2nd and 3 call? Why put the ball in the air?
Because they're expecting a run.
So what?
What do you mean, so what?
If they stuff it and you really need to throw it, then throw it on 3rd and 3.
Okay, well, what if Sparkman Moss is a guy and you score it on 2nd and 3 in the end zone?
How often have we seen that happen this season?
Well, it happened against Oklahoma in Norman
How
last
often
year.
is that why you reached that point in the drive?
No, they were running the ball. I mean, I'm not... I agree. You probably should have run the ball there, but just because the play didn't work doesn't mean it wasn't a good play. You can't dictate what you think about a play by the outcome.
I'm not.
Okay. And I agree, or at least I understand where you're coming from to run the ball. I didn't mind that throw. The next play I didn't like. I would have run the ball on 3rd down. But yes.
So that's kind of one of my takeaways is running the ball. And I know that's an oversimplification. Run the damn ball. Doesn't fix everything. Just like the people calling to throw it to the tight ends. To me, that's like pressing the touchdown play button. You don't just magically, let's just throw to the tight ends and get 600 yards.
There was also like, I hope Zach Kittley's taking notes on all these games around here because people are taking deep shots. Yeah, he knows. And I think Kittley is limited by what the team can do. You don't have a freak athlete, especially after Miles Price went down, that can just release on a slant and be open.
Right.
You don't have Tyreek Hill. A lot of your guys are like, why do you keep running hitches and stops and sideline outs? that's because those are the kind of receivers you have.
They're not beating anybody over the top. They're just not. People need to get that out of their heads right now. Even if they could, we can't block long enough to throw it.
And exactly.
You tried once with Fungi, and the right tackle got pushed into Donovan, and it was an interception.
The only times you've thrown it deep, you hit the one to White late, but the only other times you've thrown it deep in the last 2 games have been free plays, pretty much.
Yeah, just jump balls.
Yeah.
That were pass interference, and you happened to catch it. Which,
or
by the way,
offsides.
Trey Cleveland and Xavier White, 2 guys you just mentioned, they played great. They need more snaps going forward. There was clearly so your 2 outside receivers, Jaron Bradley, Loic Fungi, had gotten the starts up to this point. Starters were Sparkman and Cleveland. Over the last 2 games, I think Cleveland is the best of all 4 that have been rotating.
Yeah.
He's going to start at one of those outside spots moving forward. And I think whether Price is healthy or not, if you're not going to utilize the tight ends, just play with 2 slot receivers.
Yes, Nehemiah Martinez and
put Xavier White in there. Nehemiah Martinez has played well. Miles Price is a staple. Just put them both on the field at the same time. Spread them out. Get a lighter box because we're just not. To me, if you're not going to utilize the tight ends and you're not going to use them to run block, then let's spread the field and get more playmakers out there.
And you're also spreading the box and emptying the box for the run. Because if you can't run with a full box, maybe you can run with a light box because you have playmakers on either side. Or you have trips or quads or whatever, and you have the option to do that. Now, you and I, just avid football fans. We watch a lot of football. It is really easy to do what we're doing and saying maybe this, maybe that. I do want to say this. Watching the game, I can tell that Zach Kitley is trying things that just are not successful. But he has to try those things because he trusts, right? He trusts the players to go make the play. They're not executing. So I think a lot of what we're talking about is execution-based. A lot of what we're talking about is maybe trying something new. And a lot of it is just playing better teams. You said it at the open. Kansas State's an 8-point favorite. They beat you by 9. They were the better team. Is it more frustrating maybe that you've seen success and it was big plays and there's maybe a consensus that you gave that one away somehow, which I don't think you did. I think they were just better than you. I don't know. Maybe it does make it worse. Maybe it doesn't. I am still very high on the future of Texas Tech, but as I said to open the show, I don't know how high I am on the rest of this season. Because a lot of what your position groups are good at, other position groups don't complement. Because like those 4 outside receivers you're talking about, they're really good at 50-50 balls. But your offensive line isn't giving Donovan enough time, and Donovan's not a great deep thrower. That's 3 things are not working together to be successful.
Yeah.
Now, they are really good at running smash routes and creating separation and catching the ball on the sideline, but you can't do that as your only play for a whole game. You're going to get jumped and they're going to have pick sixes.
Yeah, especially if you're also not going to hand the ball off. You're just taking a lot out of the playbook at that point. Let's talk about the quarterback position because it's a topic of interest to the fan base. I said on the preview that I thought Shough going down with a pretty intermediate term injury that Donovan would have the chance to play his way into just remaining a starter. He's got 1 game left. I don't see it happening. I think if Shough was healthy this week, I think he would and should be the starter. Unless Donovan really surprises me on Saturday and finds better pocket presence, pocket awareness, takes care of the ball, has some zip on some deep balls, maybe. But at this point, I think that the issues that were present, for all the potential that was present after the Houston game, the issues that were present are still there, and they're exactly as bad as they were. He's the last guy to realize that the pocket is collapsing around him. A lot of negative plays. He had 3 turnovers on Saturday. He had 3 against Houston, 2 against NC State. Like, at this point, the Texas game was the anomaly. You cannot go into a game thinking, well, our quarterback have over or under 2.5 turnovers today. You just can't do it.
No.
And I've said this, I've explained this philosophy to you. I don't know if I have on the podcast. Look, I just went over it. He had the ball in his hand 66 times.
Right.
There's going to be good plays. There's going to be bad plays. There's going to be neutral plays where he just throws a 5-yard hitch that anybody could throw, and it's not a big deal. His 5 worst plays every game are drive-killing, game-losing plays. And that's not a shot at him, but it's like, so think back, what was Adrian Martinez's worst play of the entire game on Saturday?
Took a sack in the third quarter.
Or maybe he missed a read and had to throw it away.
Yeah, he had some terrible throws.
0 turnovers.
Third down, if a guy spilling out a wheel, and he just threw it way over his head, like 30 yards.
How about Hudson Card? In a losing effort, what was his 5 worst plays? He had the interception that was an ill-advised throw.
Right.
Besides that,
probably his worst throw, yeah.
Can you think of 3 or 4 more just like, geez?
Well, he didn't get called on it, but the intentional grounding.
Okay.
But yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? Where I could point to 5 plays where I go, okay.
Leary, problem-free football. Problem-free football, yeah.
Yeah, he threw for 120 yards, made no positive impact on the game.
But didn't lose the game.
But he didn't throw a pick 6.
Right.
And so I'm looking back to Donovan's worst plays. You go, okay, we didn't get points on this drive because he took a sack there. 2 pick 6s across these games that I could point to. Other turnovers in really untimely type situations.
Right.
And you just, even if the other 61 plays are good to great, 5 negative plays like that, almost no team can overcome them.
And if your usage rate is lower, you might have less of those plays. So I think it's all a little bit catch-22, which is what you're saying. If he didn't have to throw it 35 times, or he threw it 35 instead of 55.
Right.
Or if he, wasn't getting sacked or taking sacks, because there's a difference between getting sacked and taking sacks. If there was some more dump off and screen and slant kind of options for him. But again, I don't know that Donovan has the eyes to find a quick slant. And I don't know that your tackles have the ability to cut a defensive end down to not have that batted right back into his face like Mutombo. And so I think a lot of Donovan's issues don't fit a bad offensive line. He's not Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And if the offensive line doesn't play any better, Tyler Shough's not going to be good either.
Well, Shough is a better runner. I guess I maybe haven't seen enough of Shough to remember this. I think he might realize when the pocket is collapsing sooner. And look, I'm not trying to pile on Donovan at all. People assume we
love Donovan.
People assume he's a good runner because he's big.
Right.
He's not a good runner. He's never made anyone miss. He made Overshown miss on one run.
Yeah.
But for a guy who's carried the ball now this season like 75 times or something, I see very little. I'm like, well, that was a good cut. That was good vision. He trucked that guy. He juked that guy.
And mostly trucks.
He kind of gets like 2 yards when you ask him to, but I've seen Shough juke somebody for a 15, 20-yard run and score a touchdown on it.
Right.
It got him injured against Murray State, unfortunately. But Houston last year.
Well, in Texas, he scored a touchdown.
Zone read, he pulled
it was Houston, yeah.
He broke 2 tackles and scored. He's a better run. He's faster in a straight line. He's got more moves. And so, whoever lines up at quarterback behind this offensive line needs to have some escapability. I don't see the decision-making from Donovan. I don't see him put his leg in the grass and just go get 4 yards. I think Shough might be better at that. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen enough of him yet. But at this point, I think Donovan has probably played his way out of being the starter, and they'll go back to Shough when they can.
Well, and just to make this not a negative segment, when you look at Donovan, you really do have Donovan and Dogovan. Because there are 5 game-winning plays that he makes every game. But against NC State and Kansas State, his bottom tier plays were much worse than his top tier plays.
Yeah, that's what, like the Houston game, it was a net even.
And you needed 5 of them at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And he had 2 more bad ones at the end of the game in overtime to take 2 straight sacks to get it to 4th and 20. But then he rolls right, finds Jerand Bradley.
Yeah.
But you can't live so far on each end of the spectrum and expect to be consistent, which is what you need from a quarterback with a bad offensive line. You need consistency. Is it hard to do with a bad offensive line? Yes.
And to mitigate the bad, look, there's a bad play and there's a game-losing play. Checking out of quarterback power on 4th and 1 when you've got 6 on 5 and throwing a pick 6 instead is not a bad play. That's a game-losing play.
Yes.
A bad play there is like I airmailed a slant route and it was a turnover on downs at that spot.
Right.
So I don't know.
Or running the 4th and 1 and slipping in the backfield.
Yeah. I think it'll be Shough when he's healthy is the point I'm making.
Certainly. And you're not trying to fire Donovan. But you can't just keep throwing him out there if it's not going to improve. And if he improves against Oklahoma State, then fine. You let him roll. If they beat Oklahoma State and Stillwater by 17 and he's got 78 plays and he's killing it and 0 turnovers, maybe you let him have another one. But I'm close to saying regardless of what happens this weekend, Tyler Shough will be the starter at home against West Virginia.
I think so too. And I hoped that the Texas game, Donovan's still young in his career. He hasn't started for a full season yet. I hoped that Texas was him turning a corner.
Yep.
And okay, I don't need to get it all right here because there weren't a ton of negative plays. There weren't any turnovers from Donovan. Now, he did fumble and he recovered it. But then you slip back on the road, you play Kansas State, and it's, again, the same types of mistakes from NC State and Houston. Nothing as detrimental as the pick sixes from those games. But when you turn the ball over 3 times, it's just not that you can't win like that in Big 12 play.
Yeah.
So Tyler Shough had a shoulder injury, not a ribs injury like Justin Herbert. But on the topic of ribs, if I wanted the best plate of ribs in West Texas, I would go out to Olton, Texas, visit our friends at Regino Barbecue. Nice catch. Sorry, watching the Packers-Patriots game here. Romeo Dobbs, I got him on my fantasy team. He's on the bench, but
Me too.
I'm stashing him for later. Regino Barbecue, at Regino BBQ on Twitter and Instagram. They post some mouth-watering pictures of everything they make, whether it's a Texas Philly, ribs, sausage, brisket, you name it. I'm kind of curious if they're going to have anything cool for the holidays, like if they're going to have a Thanksgiving type deal that you can order in advance, or
they have
tamales.
Done the turkeys before.
That'd be. I'm going to keep my eyes open for that.
Yeah, we'll have to ask them.
Anyway, thank you to Regino Barbecue for their support of the Gambling Gauchos. And hey, the barbecue gospel is spreading because an Oklahoma State fan on Gauchos After Dark, I think he maybe lives in West Texas.
I think so.
But he referenced
wanted to meet us there,
getting some Regino Barbecue before the game on Saturday. So it spreads.
Certainly does. See the Arizona-Carolina score?
It was 10-10 last I saw.
It's not 10-10 anymore.
What is it?
26-10.
How did that happen?
Not sure. I was looking at my
who's
fantasy
winning?
team. Well, not the good guys. Depending on who you think are good guys. Arizona losing 26-10. Yikes. Is Cliff? Oh, no. Whoa. Okay. ESPN Fantasy is stupid. They're winning 26-10.
Okay.
That makes more sense.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, man. Woof. Is Matt Rule getting fired? That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, that seems like a matter of time. Now, you mean future Texas Tech defensive analyst Matt Rule?
No, the Nebraska head coach, Matt Rule.
I don't think a program like that's going to hire him coming off
they're
of.
not.
He needs a rehab stint.
Yeah, so he's going to go somewhere. I would love for him to be the defensive analyst. I think that would be good for Joey and for Matt Rule. I'd hate to see him on the sideline, but the red and black smock looks better than the green one.
Well, red and black, anything looks better than
Yeah.
green, and they call it gold, but it's yellow.
All right, so the second half, Zach Ertz touchdown, Matt Prater field goal, Kyler Murray run, Marquise Brown touchdown. And then up 26-10, Cliff went for 2
Love it.
to make it 28-10. Analytics.
Hey, can I say something on that?
But he missed that, by the way.
People on Twitter keep talking about the 4th down decisions.
Yeah.
First off, NC State, you lose, everybody hated it. Texas, you convert them, you win, everybody loves it.
Right.
Back to hating it. I just want to, I seriously don't know if people misunderstand this. There's no judgment going into these. It's not a gut feel. It's not a situational. Well, it is situational. It is
situational because he took a field goal once.
It's a math-based formula on what gives you a better percentage chance to win the game. Should you punt, kick a field goal, or go for it? And that's what I don't think people are getting. They're like questioning his judgment on
Right.
well, let me sense this or feel this out.
Right.
He's literally looking at a book that says you have a 53% chance to win if you kick the field goal, or you have a 49% chance to win if you go for it.
Did you see
all they're
the Sam Kahn article on Joey Lytics this week?
No. I saw it, but I didn't read it.
You should read it. Do you know who the coach is who carries the book around and looks at the numbers?
Kirk Bryant?
Kirby Ennis
Oh, okay.
of Twitter fame. Kirby
Yeah, I
Ennis.
know. Yeah.
This off the chat here. Cliff screamed no shish at Kyler when Kyler threw a temper tantrum.
Did you see Mahomes going after Bieniemy?
Yes.
Last week?
Oh, and I commented on that, and somebody was like, "Oh, you as a coach's son should know that happens on a football sideline." No. The best quarterback in the game and his offensive coordinator should do that in the locker room at halftime and not on the sideline. If it's the middle of the third quarter and you disagree with the call, yeah, do it on the sideline. It's fine in the heat of the game. But they're running off the field arguing with each other. That's a little different to me. Like, wait for 30 yards
That's fair.
and get in the hallway.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
fair.
Especially when there's a history between those two, though allegedly debunked in the offseason. There was that article.
Do we need to talk about the officiating at all?
I'm sure people will want us to.
Okay, first off, before the very end of the game, which we'll get to, there was a 4th and 5 where your receiver, I think it was Sparkman,
Yeah.
is wrapped up from behind with his
Yes.
right arm being held down. And somebody who I guess is smarter than me on Twitter said that that's a legal play because the defensive back has the right to go after the ball.
Right. Through a receiver after the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, like there would never be any pass interference called if you could just play that card and like, oh yeah, I tackled him, but I was going after the ball.
Yeah.
That's not how that rule is applied.
No.
That's like if there's a jump ball situation and they collide, yeah, they both have a right to go after the ball. You cannot hold a guy's arms down and tackle him a second before the ball gets there and say, oh, I was going for the ball.
Yeah.
That was a call that honestly, the game was more in the balance at that point than when you were down by 2 possessions, needed to score, recover an onside kick, score again. Now, I still think that needs to be answered for because that was really bad officiating, but I don't think that impacted the outcome of the game as much as the 4th and 5.
Go back to the 4th and 5 because they score right after that in a couple plays, right?
Yeah.
If that converts, maybe you don't score on that drive, but you at least burn more time and get further down the field. But even if you punt, they were scoring, right? Or running out the clock. You weren't going to win if you punted there. That was a surrender punt, in my opinion. Now, maybe you punt them down there and something happens and they muff it or whatever else, but there's just as much chance of that happening as PI getting called on an obvious PI that just gets swallowed. Speaking of swallowing, the ref should have swallowed his whistle, but didn't. A whistle happened. And if it wasn't one of the officials, it was on the field or by a microphone because a whistle happened. And whatever one of those officials blew the whistle and then walked over to Joey McGuire and told him to his face that no whistle happened, they lied.
Is that really what they said?
There's no other explanation. What else could they have said? If they said, yeah, there was a whistle, but
They said they blew it
we
at the end
can't
of the
do
play.
anything. If that's what they said, then they just are also lying because it was before the play. And if there's got to be a chain of command there. Did somebody call down for review on the catch?
That's what I thought. As the play was going on, I was like, okay, there was a late whistle. They were trying
Yeah.
to blow it dead so that they could review the play before. And that's what Ryan Leaf
Yes.
said up in the booth. And then there was like, oh, yeah, no whistle. And I was like, well, if y'all weren't trying to blow it dead for the replay, then there's an inadvertent whistle in the middle of the play.
Yes.
And again, I don't think it impacted the outcome of the game.
It affected the cover.
It did. I looked at FPI. You had a 3.5% chance to win the game before that play. I don't think anybody acting on that play altered what they were doing because of the whistle. So I think you're getting picked off even if there is no whistle.
Right. Well, yeah. Unless Donovan thought it was a free play.
But the fact remains, you could have been losing by 30 at that point. Big 12 refs blew a whistle mid-play and just refused to acknowledge that there was an inadvertent whistle, and they didn't go by the protocol. It should have been a dead play.
Yep.
You redo the down.
Yes.
And instead, they just acted like nothing happened. And
it was like,
somebody
oh,
has to be accountable for that.
Oh, there was an interception on that play. We can't do anything else.
Yeah, BS.
Like, what if that was an incomplete pass? Or what if it's a
Or
touchdown?
touchdown, yeah.
And they were like, "Oh no, sorry, we blew the whistle."
We would have
never
been
know.
pissed off, but that's the rule. I'd been like, yeah, I wish they hadn't blown it dead. I wish they hadn't been late on the replay, but that's the rule.
Yeah.
If a whistle blows mid-play, it's done and you redo the down.
You watched the Tim Donaghy NBA Untold Story?
No.
You should.
I wish I had been older when that happened. I would have been a lot more interested because I was like a kid. And I was like, yeah, what is it? Like, who cares about this ref?
What happened fairly recently?
No, it was like 2005 or something.
No.
2007.
Was it? Oh, well, I guess I'm older than you.
I think I was like
senior in high
late
school
middle
at that
school,
point.
early high school, and I didn't know about sports games. I was kind of like, eh. But if that happened today in the NFL or NBA,
I
I'd
think
be
it
like,
went through maybe it started in 7, but went through to like 11.
well, I think 7 is like when they
Yeah.
broke it and found it out that it had been going on for a while. I'm going to look it up. And I'm just curious. I'm not trying to prove anybody right or wrong.
Well, I watched it recently, but because I thought it had been longer ago, so I felt it was more recent than I thought. But I'll just say this: I'm not accusing anyone, but if I wanted to shave points in that game, a 4th and 5 PI swallow and an inadvertent whistle that they picked it off, we didn't blow a whistle, is pretty damning, right? When
Yeah,
it's a 10-point line or a 9-point line and you're winning by 10?
the inadvertent whistle basically lets
Or
you
8, 9, whatever it is.
the inadvertent whistle basically gives you the best of both worlds. If Texas Tech does score a touchdown, you say,
Yeah.
no, sorry, we blew the whistle, no play. If Kansas State
Whoops.
intercepts it, you just go, oh, nope, no whistle, game over. So it gives you cover both ways if you can enforce that rule or not, and they chose not to.
Again, I'm not saying that happened. But I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Yeah, so it was 2007 is when the Donaghy scandal broke, and they found out he had been doing it since the 2005-2006 season.
Yeah, it was a quick run, too.
Well,
And then
2 full seasons.
And then he was saying at the end, they were alluding to him not giving back or not paying back or not admitting to how much money he actually made. Because apparently they said he only bet like $4 or $5 grand a game. And this other guy was saying he was betting like 40, 50 a game. And he's got like a really nice house right now that they're like, how'd you? He's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know.
I need to rewatch. There was a betting scandal, I think in the 90s, with Arizona State basketball.
Yeah.
And this was
Is there a 30 for 30 on that?
either that or like an E60 or something.
Yeah.
But this was before, like nowadays it's so mainstream. Any show you pop on, they're going to have the total, the spread.
Right.
Back then it was kind of like a hush-hush. It was still taboo.
Yeah. Even 5 years ago it was.
Yeah.
And without Michael saying that field goal might be important for some people out there.
Yeah, you didn't even think. You're like, oh yeah, I guess maybe the spread was about 10
Right.
or so. But anyway, this player for Arizona State basketball was, I guess, connected to some bookies. They were point shaving, but it was like such a poorly kept secret. After a few games, all these Arizona State kids would road trip to Vegas and bet on the games, and like they would literally line up at the window, all wearing their Arizona State gear.
Yeah.
And like the way they got caught, the casino was like, why are there 50 kids in Arizona State t-shirts lined up at the betting window right now, all picking Arizona State to not cover? So in today's world, it would be so much more difficult, I think.
Yeah.
And like they got caught because they were stupid, but who knows how long that could have gone on had they kept it quieter. So I think fans that don't follow sports betting that much have a much more heightened sense of paranoia about it. I'm like, you can't, like if this was going on, it would be snuffed out. I mean, there's so many supercomputers now that can detect strange behavior, strange betting patterns. And it would just go.
Yeah,
like,
it's much more likely these dudes were just incompetent because you see a lot of Big 12 refs that are incompetent.
Like if the Lakers went on a stretch where they were 1-7 against the spread, it would raise a little bit of, and that could just be a little trend and it'll correct itself. But if they were doing that while some guy was like placing all kinds of wagers on it, they'd be like, okay, let's time out. So I'm not really that concerned about the integrity of most professional sports. But like you said, if they were,
right,
it wouldn't have looked much different.
No. Yeah. And that's 2 big plays at the end of a game that, again, one of them really affects the outcome and the other one really affects the total and the spread. Mm-hmm. The total went over, but I don't know.
So I saw somebody, I thought this was an interesting conversation to debate. They said that Donovan's stretch of 8 starts is the best 8 starts we've seen besides Patrick Mahomes in the last decade, like since Seth Dagey. And I responded that I would rather have Nick Shimonek right now. I think he beat Houston by 17 with Nick Shimonek.
No.
I do.
Oh, this year.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Because he played Houston and
Right.
did not beat it by 17.
Well, we were up by 17
oh, true.
until very late, and they
True.
scored onside, scored,
Yeah.
almost got another onside. But anyway, agree or disagree that we should be content with what we've seen from Donovan because it's the best we've seen in a decade, besides the greatest player who's ever played the game, Patrick Mahomes.
I think Alan Bowman had high spots.
I don't think he ever did over 8 games, though.
No.
He
But
might have
you
barely
look at
started
his-
8 games total by the time he was
I would have
done
liked to
here.
seen Alan Bowman with Cliff Kingsbury for a whole year.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, I think Nick Shimonek was also good. I think Donovan probably should start the rest of the game. The rest of the games. I mean, you're starting them already. I don't think that Shough, I'm not as high on Shough as you are coming back. I think he will, but I don't think it's like some magic pill that the offense is just going to get incredibly more refined
How about
because
this?
Shough's out there.
Over under.
By the way, Shough less experienced than Donovan at this point.
Fewer starts. He's been through more spring practices, more practice reps.
Okay.
Over or under, Shough makes you 3.5 points better than Donovan with this same compliment.
Under.
Okay.
I think they're the same.
Okay. I disagree.
And again, if he comes in and they're 17 points better on offense, you're playing worse defenses.
Was Houston's defense good?
Against Caleb Rogers, yes. Parrish was awesome. You know what I mean?
No. Like I get it for going on the road at NC State, on the road in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Are we sure that Texas's defense is really good and Houston's defense is really good? Is Oklahoma State's defense really good?
Texas's defense is good. Not really good.
It's above average. I mean, like I'm not
They
saying
looked
that.
by the way, they looked way better against
I'm not
West
saying
Virginia.
Donovan has played a bunch of bad defenses, but he threw 3 picks against Houston, which would be
Shough threw pick
bottom
six.
third of the Big 12 defense.
What would Donovan have done against Stephen F. Austin?
I don't know.
Well, you're trying to put Shough in this year and saying he's going to beat Houston by 17. Shough didn't beat Stephen F. Austin by 17.
I said Shimonek would.
You might have said off air that Shough would have beat Houston by 17.
I think he would have. Yeah.
So why didn't he beat Stephen F. Why didn't he look great against Stephen F. Austin?
Last year?
Yeah.
Last year.
Because the offensive coordinator?
Because the entire coaching staff.
Oh, don't act like we can't pull quarterbacks from one year to the next. You just try to put Shimonek on this team.
What? I'm not saying you can't pull one quarterback
Okay.
from one year to the other.
All right.
Do you think Donovan would have blown out Stephen F. Austin last year?
I don't know, but Shough didn't look good. That's all I'm
Did
saying.
anybody look good that game? That's what I'm asking you.
No, that's why I don't think Shough is like the magic pill to change this offense. I think there's too many problems
I
elsewhere.
didn't say that. I said he made you more than 3.5 points better than Donovan, which
I
literally
think it's a wash.
against NC State. If Shough was in and took a knee on that 4th and 1 pick 6, he makes you 7 points better.
Okay, Shough threw 2 pick sixes last year.
He did last year.
He's just not going to do it this year.
I think he is probably better coached and playing for a better team this year.
Okay. I mean, agree to disagree. I would like for whatever quarterback plays to be successful.
Is there a reason why the quarterback competition wasn't close in the spring and summer?
Well, that's reportedly not close. If you listen to the coaches, it was very close.
I mean, don't coaches say that about any position battle?
Yeah, and again, I think Shough will start, and I'm not going to complain about Shough coming in. I just don't think he's better than Donovan, and that's not because I think Donovan's great. I just think the mantra and the conversation that Texas Tech has the best quarterback room in the country was way overblown before the season. I mean, you're trying to recruit to make every position better here at Texas Tech, and quarterback is one of them. Now, in the future. Does Baron Morton get a shot with a better offensive line and light it up? Hopefully.
I don't want to hear it when Shough comes back and we beat West Virginia by 17. I don't want to hear that it's because it was a bad defense. Because West Virginia is basically Houston, and we had to survive in overtime. So if we're beating a team like that,
well, we'll see how the game goes.
Without the quarterback turning the ball over 3 times,
we'll see how the game goes.
Then, like Baylor, do they have a horrible defense that if we win that game,
no, they have a really good defense.
Okay, yeah. So Iowa State, do they have a bad defense?
Yes.
They have a bad defense?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
Well, they're just not good overall. No, they have a bad kicker. I'm just messing with you now.
Yeah, that was gobbledygook.
But I don't think Iowa State is as good as the 2 teams you've lost to.
I don't think so either, but I think their defense is solid.
Yeah. But again, I think Shough can go out and do exactly what Donovan's been doing and maybe a little bit better in spots. But I think he's also going to give you these bad plays too, because I've seen him throw picks. I've seen him not realize something's happening. And
okay, let me ask you this: you took the under on, is he 3.5 points better? Does he make you 1 point better than Donovan?
Again,
is he at all better?
I don't know why we're doing this. I think Shough will start when he comes back. Yes.
Why are we doing this? Because that's like the number one topic of conversation is the quarterback position.
I know, but we're really getting into it, and I've already said 3 times that I think Shough will start and probably should.
Is he 1 point better than Donovan?
I don't know. We'll see, and that's why I want to see him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we should touch on Baron Morton because some people are calling for him to start. He's not going to get his first career start on the road at number 7. It's just not going to happen, so quit talking about it.
But I would also like to see him.
One more thing.
But not in Stillwater.
Fans on message boards who are saying that Baron Morton must be terrible if he's not getting any action right now, so he should just transfer.
Stop.
Please shut the hell up.
You're not going to put a guy who played 3A high school football in his first major action against any of the teams you've played yet. You're just not going to do it. You're just not going to do it.
That is like a verbatim quote. He should just transfer. Like, are you serious? We want the highest rated quarterback we've recruited here since Graham Harrell to just leave?
A lot of quarterbacks.
Are you stupid?
A lot of quarterbacks don't start until you're 3 or 4 in college. And you have all the eligibility left. It's fine. Chill out. And if he does transfer, he does transfer, and somebody else is playing next year. But you also don't give a guy playing time just so he won't transfer. You play the best guy. And if the best guy is Shough or Donovan or whoever else is on the roster, then it is what it is. But as much as we've kind of ragged or talked about or discussed any kind of coaching or whatever today, I'm going to defer to those guys who watch practice and are making those decisions. Now, again, if Donovan comes in against Kansas because of another injury and throws for 4 touchdowns, okay, it's a home game and it's Kansas. Well, they're 5-0. Shut up. They're number 19. I don't care.
Number 17 in the coaches poll.
Whatever.
You just said you trust the coaches.
You're going to do that a lot. I trust our coaches. You're going to do that a lot differently than on the road at Kansas State or on the road against the 7 NFL defensive pass rushers that Oklahoma State boasts in Stillwater with paddles everywhere. It's just a different atmosphere.
That's why also his first career start wasn't versus Texas or in Manhattan. It's just that's not a spot unless you can just not avoid it. It's not a spot you throw a kid in his second year into the fire. Now, hey, if you're 4-6 and you want to start him at home against OU the last game of the season, sure.
Yeah.
Whatever.
If you have 4 wins,
then yeah, let's see what he's got.
If you get to 4-6, I would play him the last 2 games.
I probably would too.
Because at that point, you're just playing for next year anyways.
I don't know why fans think that.
Because they're fans.
Well,
they want to talk.
I've never said there's a magic pill that makes everything better. I've acknowledged that you have issues on the offensive line, all this.
Yeah.
I don't think Shough comes in and makes everything better.
Sure.
But also Baron Morton isn't going to do that.
Right.
And I think really highly of Baron
likely.
Morton.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are like, oh, well, if that's not working, why don't we put in a guy who's never played before with 0 experience and that'll fix it? No, it won't.
Somebody texted me today, is Baron Morton going to start in Stillwater? I said,
no.
I said, does Baron Morton play left tackle?
Yeah. He plays tight end sometimes.
Like there's what Baron Morton provides at quarterback right now today is a first start isn't going to be markedly better than anyone else playing quarterback for Texas Tech this year.
Right.
Now, does he have a higher ceiling? Maybe. I think he certainly has a higher ceiling than a lot of quarterbacks we've seen.
I think he has the highest ceiling
just recruiting-wise, he does.
since we've had in a long, long time.
Yeah.
And the clips we've seen, like the arm talent is there.
He's the highest-rated quarterback since Graham Harrell, and maybe even higher than Graham Harrell.
Who compared him to Mahomes in the offseason?
Kitley. It was Kitley's voice.
Okay.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, did you already know that? You were just setting me up.
I couldn't remember if that was
I think it was
a
Kitley.
writer or
No.
coach. Or,
It was a video package where he was like, the arm talent is Mahomes-esque.
that's pretty crazy.
It's high praise.
Yeah.
And they know that, and in the building they know that. But there's a reason you don't bring the first-round pickup to the majors without letting them see double and triple A.
Yeah, it's also kind of like in the NFL. If you draft the future number 1 overall and you have a horrible offensive line, you don't put him out there game 1. Like, let him learn for a year. You try to shore up the offensive line in free agency.
Did Patrick Mahomes play year 1?
Draft a guy in the second round. Because you don't want to put a franchise quarterback back there to get his bell rung every 5 dropbacks.
Yeah, that's why they didn't put Kellen Mond in.
Yeah, that's why. So anyway,
man.
that's all I have on
Sometimes
the...
you just need a little protection. You know who else provides protection? If you can't pay your employees. Diversified lenders.
Okay, is that who sponsors the mailbag? Are we going to do the Discord mailbag?
Yeah, let's do it.
If you want to join the Patreon/Discord, hit us up on patreon.com/gamblinggauchos. We've got a whole host of interviews that are behind a paywall there. I think y'all will really enjoy those. Adding to it soon, I think. There's a bit of a hint earlier in the show when we were talking about the Cardinals-Panthers game. Maybe we'll do that during the bye week when there's a little less action. Also access to the number 1 Texas Tech fan Discord server, at least that I know of. I'm going to keep claiming that until somebody shows us they have a Discord with more Tech fans in it. Have a lot of fun in there. It's $5 a month. Proceeds go to the Matador Club. Oh, it's October. We're due for another $100 donation to the Matador Club. So we'll get that out this week, and would love to have y'all join our Patreon community. And gives you the opportunity to submit questions on the mailbag, which we will get to presently.
To the mailbag. Trying to go back. It was pretty hot today. Trying to go back to... We've been getting questions all week. Let's see. Oh, this from last... Do you want to answer the one from last week that you answered in the Discord about some conversation we had online last week, or do you just want to put that to bed?
What was it about?
If you had regrets engaging in some discourse last week online.
Oh, slightly. I wish that a lot of the post-game activities wouldn't have distracted from the outcome of the game. And that goes for some of our Twitter engagement. That goes for the student pushing the player. Like, if that video never comes out,
right,
none of that discourse ever starts. Now, we apologize for making an error on Twitter. That was my error. I'm not going to say we because you didn't.
We're in it together, man.
Yeah. Obviously, there was a video that surfaced briefly. I think it is gone now. That looked like a Texas player shoved the crap out of this girl, which obviously, had that happened, not okay. And then it came out that he was knocked into her, that he apologized. It was an accident. So we removed any time that we shared the video, apologized, put out the full context and facts in case the video did surface elsewhere. But yeah, all that getting in the mud, like on Monday, you still want to be kind of like coming off the high of the win on Saturday, but nobody was even talking about a thrilling win over a rival potentially on their last trip to Lubbock. So I just wish it hadn't gone that way.
Is Donovan on a short leash this week if he turns the ball over a couple of times early versus Oklahoma State?
I think if you have no chance to win the game, they might get Baron Morton some reps. But I think while you're in the game, he's going to keep.
And it's a much different conversation to put a guy in the third quarter once he's seen the atmosphere rather than just putting him in there after the kickoff with those paddles and everything.
Look, if it's 27-3 halfway through the third quarter, then
if you haven't scored for the second straight or the third straight half against Oklahoma State, maybe you're trying it out.
Especially if you are confident that Shough is coming back 2 weeks later after the bye,
right?
Then you say, let's just get Baron some action. We're not going to win this game anyway. That, I think, is the only way you see him, really.
Are you watching Kitley mature as a play caller and taking his lumps? Question mark. And then there's some qualifications here. We all love the hire and know he's the right choice. However, 3 years at Houston, Baptist, and 1 at a G5 with the same quarterback isn't as if he was facing the highest level of competition.
Yes and no. I get what they're getting at, but I also think some of the conversation around Kitley is borderline condescending. Like, I saw somebody just refer to him as our 31-year-old offensive coordinator. Why did you mention his age? Because he's young, he must be an idiot who doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
He's obviously a smart guy. Multiple Power 5 programs wanted to hire him. And yeah, he's not as experienced yet. Maybe he's a much more comfortable play caller 5 years from now. But this, like, oh, well, he's just a little toddler out there trying to do an adult's job is like a little bit demeaning.
I see the athletes that these guys are recruiting offensively, and I think everything is more open with a 10-10 track speed receiver that you just don't really have on campus right now. We've been spoiled for a long time as Tech fans with plug-and-play wide receivers. It's a harsh fact that we don't have dudes to win 50-50 and can't make separation right now. Is that what's making life harder on Donovan? I'll take this one and I'll let you finish it up. A lot of things are making life hard on Donovan. I do think you have guys that win 50-50 balls. I think you have a couple of guys really, really good at it. Really, all four of those outside receivers do that. Donovan has trouble keeping his eyes downfield, A, because that's just something he's working on. He didn't play quarterback until a senior of high school and then has played it, 8 games? And then the offensive line. I mean, you can't just create separation and throw it downfield if you have 2.5 seconds to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not turn down a Kiki QT or Eric Ezukama or Bradley Marquez or any of those guys.
Dozie Ezukama.
Yeah. But, yeah, you still cannot block consistently enough to throw a post route 45 yards down the field.
Incoming rant. I'm gonna try to sum this one up, and we appreciate the question here. I'm gonna read the first question here because he figures it out the rest of the way, and I think we've talked about a lot of what he wanted to talk about. Am I alone in wanting the quarterback schemed runs and screens out of the offense?
Yeah.
Well, no, because we talked about eliminating a bunch of that.
Yeah.
Or at least the scheme.
You're
not alone. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot how he worded it.
No, I don't see any reason why Donovan Smith should tote the rock as many times as Sir Roderick and Taj combined. If you want to run the ball, hand the ball off. Fine with a few to keep them honest, and I'm fine with some read option type plays, but no, hand the ball off. You got 2 studs back there.
Some good discourse after that question. I'll let that remain in the Discord. Hey, is that why they named it that? Y'all going live today? Yes, we are. We are live. You can find it on patreon.com/GambleGouches. All right. That's the whole mailbag that is in the mailbag channel. Do you have any other mailbags you want to get to? A lot of people were asking me questions after the weekend. What's the game plan look like in Stillwater? Who's starting? Can the offensive line do anything to fix what they're doing? Yeah, we'll talk about all that on Wednesday. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, at some point, it's just a talent issue. So we'll find out because a lot of people improve, and a lot of people can improve through a season, but a lot of your issues just is what it is, baby. And you're going to have to play worse teams to win.
I will say Oklahoma State is obviously a great team. But the last 2 weeks, you've played the 2 best running backs that you're going to face all season. You faced a quarterback unlike you'll face the rest of the season. I'm not saying he's better, but you're not going to face anybody that can just run downhill on you like that.
Yeah. This offense is a better matchup for Texas Tech's defense.
You have a good pass rush. Look, you got to Adrian Martinez a couple times, and other times you made him throw on the run or coulda, woulda, shoulda had a sack and didn't quite finish the play. I don't think Spencer Sanders in his career has shown that he's just fantastic dealing with pressure. I would love to see Tyree Wilson get all over him, and I think that's a real strength of this team. Would love to see you finish some of those plays in the backfield instead of letting Adrian Martinez escape and find a receiver downfield for a first down or tuck and run himself, which Spencer Sanders can certainly do. But anyway, all that to say, there's no more Bijan, there's no more Deuce Vaughn on the schedule. There's no quarterback that can run like Adrian Martinez. So maybe some of the offenses you'll face the rest of the way are a little bit better matchups for you, even if they're also good in their own right.
I think this one, I think it starts this week. I think your defense is much better equipped to stop Spencer Sanders and what they do. They're not good on offense. Okay, well, let me rephrase that. They do enough on offense. Their calling card is the defense. They scored 30-ish on 35 on Baylor.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that a lot of that was just them doing whatever they wanted.
7 was on special teams too.
Yeah. And there were some penalties on third down and some situations there that I don't know. They're fine. It's like Spencer Sanders has never been one guy that you're like, oh man, difference maker. Now, week to week, maybe quarter to quarter.
Yeah, he can be.
He can be. But consistently, he's just not. All right, let's run through some opening lines and then wrap it up.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the opening lines.
Yeah, you got them. I got them. You got them?
You've already got them.
Well, I can find them real quick because you tweeted them out.
Well, you said you had them.
Well, you're getting your phone out. I got it right here. All right. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. We'll start there. We were just talking about Oklahoma State. minus 11, total 68.5. I dead on, I think. I think it will move to closer to 13.5 when it finishes.
I was surprised FPI gives you almost a 1-4, like in between 1-4, 1-5 chance to win. Maybe some of those analytics models aren't as high on Oklahoma State. But yeah, it's a tough road environment.
What does that work to line-wise if it was 25%?
Usually about a touchdown.
Okay.
So with that, Juice, maybe you would have thought between 7 and 10.
Yeah, and then maybe at home you
My
get
gut on
a couple
Couches After
points.
Dark was 13.5. So I thought, somewhere between that, like 10.5 and 14, which I guess is basically what it is. Just kind of the twilight zone there when it's 11 or 12.
Farmageddon, Iowa State hosting Kansas State. This is a pick'em, total 48.5. I think this will trend one way.
I'd probably pick Iowa State if it stays at a pick'em.
It will trend toward Kansas State. I think people will bet on Kansas State and the money will flow that way. I think it might close 2.5, minus 2.5 Kansas State.
I think Iowa State is good after a loss. Coming off 2 losses in a row, they're at home. It's a big game for them.
Well, they played Kansas well.
Feels like
the juggernaut.
Get back on track type game.
How much do Kansas State fans love that they got jumped in the AP poll by Kansas?
I'm not a fan of one-game sample sizes. I see all that discourse. People are like, don't lose to Tulane. They played 5 games. One of them was a win in Norman.
Right.
Like, I'm just not a fan of everything boiling down to one game versus Tulane. Like, look at the 5-game resume. Their best win is better than your best win. Their second best win is probably better than your best win.
Yeah. Texas
like,
Tech's better than anybody Kansas has played.
Look at Kansas's wins. Houston, they suck.
Yep.
West Virginia.
Yep. Duke sucks. Somebody was like, Duke just beat Virginia by 21. They're good. Okay.
Everybody in the ACC
Virginia.
is bad besides
Everyone.
Clemson and North Carolina State. Maybe North Carolina is okay. Syracuse is 5-0.
You're saying Wake Forest is bad?
Oh, no, they're good. They're good.
The Red River Rivalry Showdown Shootout. Texas, the home team, in Dallas. Texas minus 5.
I like Texas. I think a lot of people counted them out. I still think they're pretty good.
I think they were flying to the ball against West Virginia. They were not into the game against Texas Tech. They looked really good against West Virginia. And is West Virginia that bad? Yes. But I think there's something to Texas bouncing back and having a pretty good run here.
I mean, look at Pitt. Pitt was ranked in the top 25 and struggled at home with West Virginia. Texas boat raced them.
Ranked.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Preseason.
Like, nobody thinks Pitt is a horrible team.
Right.
They were roughly equal with West Virginia. I said on Gauchos After Dark, I wouldn't count out Texas to make the Big 12 championship game.
Me neither.
I think they might. I think they'll. Are they going to be favored in every game moving forward? Do they play Oklahoma State in Austin?
That's something we can go through Wednesday, maybe.
Yeah.
Talk through the rest of the games.
I could totally see them finishing 7-2 in conference play, and if one of those losses is to Tech, I don't think Tech is going to be a factor, so they'd probably win a tiebreaker over another 7-2 team.
Final one, Kansas hosting TCU. A couple of undefeateds here. 5-0 versus 4-0. This is in Lawrence, game day. Total 59.5. -5 for Kansas.
For TCU.
-5 for TCU.
Locking in TCU. Under a touchdown. I love that.
I think it'll move that way too.
Look, I don't think Kansas is bad. That's a great storyline. But the 7 games they're about to play are probably against better teams than the first 5 that they played. And that matters.
Agreed. I was going to go back and look because there were some lines out last week.
One more thing. I'd have to check the Houston final score, but let's throw that one out. All their wins against FBS opponents by 1 possession or in overtime. West Virginia overtime, 3 points against a bad Iowa State team at home, and then Duke by 8 at home.
Man, that Iowa State kicker, true freshman.
They should have gone for it.
Yes. Maybe not on the last one, but certainly the
Go get 1 yard.
Previous, yeah.
I mean, if you can't get 1 yard,
30 seconds left.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, so Oklahoma was -2 to open, probably in the preseason. So it's +6 already on the book consensus. And then Texas Tech down to 10.5 consensus.
Interesting.
Which I don't know that everyone has already come out with those books.
Right, and Circa has some strange opening lines sometimes, so that
though they were right on everyone was complaining they were 10 points over on the over for Texas Tech, Texas, and they nailed it. They were sharp on it, really.
Yeah.
And then Kansas State, Iowa State already -2. Kansas State.
Okay, cool.
That's consensus, though, so that's just more books coming out.
I got some final thoughts before you ask me for final thoughts.
All right, final thoughts?
We talk about a lot of things going on in the Big 12, regardless of what happens in the Texas Tech game. Just want people to understand that. This is a Texas Tech plus Big 12 podcast.
That's a Big 12 podcast. It says so in our bio.
Like if there's a crazy finish in the Baylor versus TCU game, we might have a thought on it. So, sorry, I guess.
Is that mostly Tech fans?
Do people not know?
Being mad after a game?
I don't know. I guess.
Because there's
like, why are you talking crap about OU? We're about to lose. I'm like, well, I didn't say we were going to beat OU or that we weren't going to lose to TCU. I'm just saying that they celebrated their coach leaving or tried to make people think that they were glad that happened. And their new guy is obviously not an upgrade.
No.
And so I feel like I'm allowed to comment on that, whether Texas Tech is on a bye week or loses to Kansas State or beats Kansas State. Some Twitter accounts out there are just like rah fan pages, and that's not what this is.
Right.
You and I have analysis, thoughts, comments on everything going on in the Big 12.
And we're going to be positive and negative when we see fit to
we'll be honest.
Positive or negative. Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna piss on you and tell you that it's raining. But having said that, a couple things. People could benefit from this. A lot of the same people who complain about that's not Texas Tech, why are you talking about it? Don't know what Farmageddon is, apparently. You should know what your conference mates, like who their coaches are and who their rivals are. Iowa State versus Kansas State is a cool little rivalry. It's nicknamed Farmageddon for those who didn't know.
Right.
We'll probably be mentioning it this week.
A couple times, I'm sure.
To that end, I think Texas Tech, Oklahoma State is going to be a primary rivalry game for both schools in the new Big 12. We need your help coming up with a name for that rivalry game. So we're going to pulse the people this week, maybe on Monday or Tuesday.
We'll do it Monday because Tuesday is job approval Tuesday, and I think that's going to get pretty lit.
Well, are we going to pulse from the Rob Bro Show or from...
Oh, we can do it from the Gauchos.
Okay. So right now, I think we've got Red Dirt Rivalry, the Dust Bowl, and the Red Dirt Duel as kind of the 3 front runners.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave a 4th option for replies. I think we're going to go bracket style. Like unless somebody wins a full out majority, if there's a plurality, we're going to narrow it down. And
I would pick 4, and because if you give the option to do the reply, it'll just get chaos.
Well, only if there's a good one. Also, you can't do shootout, like it or not. It's not going to be the shootout.
No, you can just put 4 answers and then say if you want to reply something, and if you get a bunch of replies.
Well, I don't have a good 4th one. Those are the only 3 that are.
Oh, we'll come up with a good 4th one.
No, we'll let the people come up with a 4th one. The people are going to decide this.
We'll ask tonight. 4th one.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we'll do that. You can't. I'm telling you, I've done a lot of polls. You can't ask for replies.
Sure, you can.
It's
good engagement.
It devolves into chaos.
That's okay. We thrive on chaos.
You thrive on chaos. All right, I don't have any final thoughts. So,
no, that's mine. We're going to keep talking about the Big 12 and help us come up with a rivalry name for Tech versus Oklahoma State. Love y'all.